Stepmother shocks everyone by pushing her stepdaughter into the river. The real reason is jaw-dropping. 0 Zaryur Riwan 30. Hook, she was 17 years old when her stepmother pushed her into the river. The water was cold, the current was strong, and by the time the sun came up the next morning, an entire town was asking the same question. Why? Some people whispered it was jealousy, others thought it was rage. But when investigators finally uncovered the truth, it wasn't just shocking. It was something that made everyone who heard it stop and rethink everything they thought they knew about trust, family, and survival. Because the real reason Carla pushed Emily into that water wasn't what anyone expected. Not the police, not the neighbors, not even Emily's own father. And by the time you hear what really happened that night, you'll understand why this case left an entire courtroom silent. This is the story of a stepdaughter, a secret, and a desperate act that no one saw coming. 133. T's key questions. Emily was quiet. She loved painting. She spent her weekends by the river, sketching the trees and the way the light hit the water. Carla was a nurse, respected, organized, the kind of woman who baked cookies for the neighborhood and never missed a PTA meeting. So how did these two people end up at the edge of that river on a Tuesday afternoon in May? How did a routine outing turn into a fight that ended with Emily in the water and Carla in handcuffs? And why did witnesses who saw them that day give completely different stories? Some said they were arguing. Others said it looked like an accident. And Carla herself? She told the police Emily slipped. But the evidence told a different story. A story that started months before that push. A story that involved secrets, fear, and a teenager who knew too much. To understand what happened that day, we need to go back to the beginning. 3 Wan Kuri. Backstory and character setup. Emily's mother died when she was 12. Cancer. It happened fast. One day her mom was there, laughing at the dinner table, and 6 months later, she was gone. Emily's father, Mark, tried his best. He worked long hours as a contractor, came home exhausted, and did everything he could to keep their small house in Missouri running. But grief has a way of isolating people, and for 2 years it was just the two of them trying to survive. Then Mark met Carla. She was working at the hospital where Mark's mother had been treated for pneumonia. Carla was kind, she listened. She made Mark feel like life could be normal again. They dated for 8 months before Mark proposed. Emily didn't say much about it. She smiled when her dad told her. She nodded when Carla moved in. But inside, something shifted. Carla wasn't cruel. She didn't yell or criticize. But there was a distance, a coldness that Emily couldn't quite name. Carla rearranged the kitchen. She redecorated the living room. She took down some of the photos of Emily's mother and replaced them with new ones. Mark didn't notice, or maybe he didn't want to, but Emily did. And slowly, quietly, she started to pull away. She spent more time alone, more time at the river. Her art teacher said she had talent, real talent, but her drawings started to change. Darker colors, sharper lines. One of her sketches showed a woman standing at the edge of the water. Her face turned away. When her teacher asked what it meant, Emily just shrugged and said it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing, because Emily had started to notice things, small things. Carla's phone buzzing late at night, hushed conversations in the bathroom, a locked drawer in the bedroom that Carla never explained. And then one day Emily found something, a prescription bottle. It wasn't in Carla's name. It wasn't in Mark's. It was in the name of a woman Emily had never heard of. And when she Googled that name, the results made her stomach drop. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Tenurasar 20 's the incident. It was a Tuesday in May. The kind of spring day where the air smells like fresh grass and the sun feels warm, but not too hot. Carla told Mark she was taking Emily to the river for a picnic, a chance to bond. Mark thought it was a good idea. He hugged Emily before they left and told her to have fun. Emily didn't say anything. She just grabbed her backpack and got in the car. The drive was quiet. Carla kept her eyes on the road. Emily stared out the window. When they reached the river, it was empty. No families, no fishermen, just the two of them and the sound of water moving over rocks. Carla spread out a blanket. She unpacked sandwiches. She asked Emily about school, but Emily wasn't interested in small talk. She had been carrying a weight for weeks, and now standing at the edge of the river with the woman who had taken over her home, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She pulled out her phone. She showed Carla the screenshots, the articles, the records, and she said the words that changed everything. I know who you are. Carla's face went white. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she stood up, slowly. Her hands were shaking. She asked Emily what she planned to do with that information. Emily said she was going to tell her father. That night, Carla stepped closer. She said Emily didn't understand, that it was more complicated than it looked, that she had made mistakes, yes, but she had changed. Emily didn't back down. She said her dad deserved to know the truth. And that's when Carla's expression changed. The fear turned into something else, something colder. She grabbed Emily's arm. Emily pulled away. They were shouting now. And then, in a moment that seemed to happen in slow motion, Carla shoved her. Hard. Emily stumbled backward. Her foot slipped on the wet rocks, and she fell. The water swallowed her in seconds. Carla stood there, frozen, watching the current carry Emily downstream. And then she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was shaking when she said the words. My stepdaughter fell into the river. I couldn't reach her. Chapter 35 1. Aftermath and investigation. The search started within the hour. Police, firefighters, volunteers from the town. They combed the riverbanks with flashlights. They launched boats. They called Emily's name until their voices went hoarse. Carla stood near the police tape, wrapped in a blanket, crying. Mark arrived and collapsed into her arms. He kept asking what happened. Carla told him Emily slipped. That she tried to grab her, but the rocks were wet. That it all happened so fast. But the police weren't convinced. The first sign of trouble came from a witness, a jogger who had been running on the trail about 100 yards upstream. He told investigators he heard shouting, angry shouting. He couldn't make out the words, but it didn't sound like an accident. Then there was Carla's timeline. She said they arrived at the river around 2 in the afternoon, but her phone showed she had been in that area since noon, 2 hours unaccounted for. When detectives asked her about it, she said she must have been confused. Stress does that, she said, but it wasn't just the timeline. Carla's behavior didn't match someone in shock. She was too calm, too composed. And when they searched her car, they found something strange. Emily's backpack was still in the trunk. Inside was her phone, her wallet, and a small notebook. The notebook was filled with Emily's handwriting. Most of it was sketches and poetry. But the last page was different. It was a list of names, prescriptions, dates, and at the bottom, circled in red ink, were the words, "Tell Dad tomorrow." The detectives brought Carla in for questioning. At first, she stuck to her story. But when they showed her the notebook, her face crumbled. She admitted she had a past she had tried to bury. Years ago, in another state, she had worked at a clinic. She had been caught writing prescriptions under false names, selling pills. She lost her license. She changed her name. She moved. She thought she could start over, but Emily had found out, and Emily was going to ruin everything. 30 was 5, Wiki at 45. The twist. Carla sat in that interrogation room for hours. She cried. She said she never meant to hurt Emily, that she just wanted her to stop, that she panicked. But the detectives didn't believe the push was an accident anymore. They believed it was intentional, an attempt to silence Emily before she could expose the truth. Carla was charged with attempted murder. The town erupted. Some people defended her. They said she was a good person who made a mistake. Others called her a monster. Mark didn't know what to believe. He visited Carla in jail once. She begged him to forgive her. He didn't say a word. He just walked out. Meanwhile, the search for Emily continued. Days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. Divers found nothing. Cadaver dogs found nothing. People started to lose hope. They held a candlelight vigil by the river. They put up posters with Emily's face, and Mark stood in his daughter's empty bedroom and wondered if he would ever see her again. But then, 23 days after the incident, something happened. A fisherman called the police. He said he had seen a girl, young, wet clothes, walking along a back road about 15 miles downstream. The police tracked the sighting, and what they found changed everything. 45-55, final twist and resolution. Emily was alive. She had climbed out of the river that day, bruised, freezing, terrified. She had hidden in the woods. She walked to a gas station and used a payphone to call a friend. Not her father, not the police. A friend. Because Emily was scared. Not just of Carla, but of what would happen if she came forward. She thought no one would believe her. She thought Carla would twist the story, make her look like the problem. So she stayed hidden. She stayed with her friend's older sister in a town 2 hours away, and she waited. But when she saw the news, when she saw her father on TV begging for her to come home, she couldn't stay silent anymore. She walked into a police station and told them everything. About the prescriptions, about the threat, about the push. And when they played her testimony in court, the room went silent. Carla was convicted, not of attempted murder, but of assault and fraud. She was sentenced to 12 years. Emily moved back home. She and her father went to therapy. It took time, a lot of time, but slowly they started to rebuild. Emily went back to painting, but now her art was different, brighter, softer. She painted the river again, but this time she painted herself standing on the other side. Safe. 55, 60. Closing engagement. When the person you trust most becomes the one you need to escape from, how do you survive? Emily did. Not because she was fearless, but because she knew the truth, and she refused to let it be buried. So what do you think? Was justice served? Was Carla a victim of her own fear, or did she deserve more? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story stayed with you, wait until you hear about the man who showed up at his own funeral 20 years after everyone thought he was dead. That video is next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Because some stories don't just shock you, they change the way you see the world.